waiting for two. Yeah, for Mitchell. And comes Rick Mitchell. You're fine. Good. Hello, Miss Mitchell.
Is it cold in this building?
It's freezing today.
It doesn't
yes.
feel so far. It's not as cold as yesterday. Maybe because I wore multiple layers.
And I wore multiple layers yesterday. Today
So when it's 100 degrees out, we're wearing wool.
Right.
It's 40 degrees out. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It's just crazy.
So true.
Are you guys going down to the census then?
Here she is. Okay. Yeah, right? We do not wrestle. We are inclusive, so everybody
I actually put my hands on somebody yesterday.
Good. We have someone like that. Oh. All right.
If you introduce it to himself to vice chair, he's going to be
Okay. Are we ready? Yeah, come on here, sweetie. Good morning, everyone. As the chair of the Women's Caucus, thank you all so much for being here today to hear what the priorities of the Women's Caucus is this year, or are this year. The room that we're in is very significant. This is the Roseanne Vuich room. For those of you who do not know, Roseanne Vuich, 42 years ago, was the first woman to be elected to the state Senate. For me personally, that significance is I was 10 years old. I was 10 years old before a woman was elected to the Senate. It's kind of shocking. We're also here on Equal Pay Day. Equal Pay Day. A lot of people don't know what that means exactly. So today is how long women have to work into this year to make what men made last year. However, if you are an African American woman, you have to work until August to make what your counterpart, male counterpart, made last year. If you are a Latina woman, you have to work until November to get to what a male made last year. So clearly we still have a lot of work to do. But we are here with the Women's Caucus representing 36 women in the state legislature. And if I do say so myself, these are some of the most dynamic women that I have had the opportunity of working with. And I think you will find that our priorities are a very diverse set of bills that will help women at all levels of their life. So I would like to tell you what the agenda is for the bills. Workplace equity, which encompasses policies to seek and advance women in the workplace. Family-friendly policies, advances policies to help women with families thrive in communities and workplaces. Welcome. Access to child care includes policies that help to make access to child care more affordable and more equitable. Health and safety supports policies that help protect women and advance access to health care. Pillar number 5, protecting vulnerable communities, includes policies that protect our most vulnerable populations, including children, women, and seniors. I would now like to turn it over to our Vice Chair, Assemblymember Monique Lamone.
Thank you. I am honored that AB 378 is one of the Women's Caucus priority bills. These policy priorities you have before you today are a strong package of bills. All of them better and improve the lives of women and families in California, and I'm proud that AB 378 is an anchor to our workplace equity. AB 378 provides a holistic framework to address both provider pay inequity and lack of accessible childcare through collective bargaining. AB 378 seeks to create a sustainable career pathway and supports those who educate and care for the interest of our youngest learners. California's early care and education workforce is comprised primarily of women and predominantly women of color. This is a workforce that is more than 40,000 people strong in this state and often does not earn a livable wage that qualify and have to qualify for subsidies alongside the same families that they serve. As we continue as the 5th largest economy, workforce issues for our current workforce and future workforce must remain at the forefront of our thinking. Gracias por estar aquí hoy. Queremos hablar sobre las prioridades de las diputadas de mujeres aquí en el estado de California. Tenemos una serie de legislaciones que hemos propuesto. Son legislaciones que apoyan no solo a las mujeres en este estado, sino que también a las familias en este estado. Van a oír sobre diferentes propuestas que nosotros, como diputadas de mujeres aquí en este estado, hemos seleccionado como las más importantes para el estado y son prioridades para nosotros y para este estado. Muchísimas gracias. And next, I would like to invite Senator Jackson, who will discuss the family-friendly policies.
Well, good morning. Happy Equal Pay Day. Hopefully we won't have to say that for very much longer, that every day will be Equal Pay Day. But in the meantime, the Women's Caucus continues to move forward to try to assure greater equity and accommodations in the workforce for 52% of the population and for families who are dependent upon our help and protection and guidance in their lives. So we know that over 60% of California families rely on a dual income. 40% of infants in California are born into single-parent families, and 1 in 5 California children live in poverty. These are staggering statistics. Our state laws must reflect the realities of the 21st century world in which we live, the 21st century family, and the 21st century workplace. That is why I am proud to announce the Legislative Women's Caucus priority family-friendly policies for the year 2019. There are 3 bills, SB 135, which I authored, SB 196 and, AB 196 and AB 24, which will ensure our state laws reflect the diverse needs of the modern California family and that our children and their caregivers receive the support they need to thrive. SB 135, which I indicated I introduced this year, will ensure that nearly all Californians who pay into the paid family leave system here in California are able to access that system, to access that program without fear of losing their jobs, that more newborns can receive individual at-home care for the first 6 months of their lives, and that California's leave laws reflect our state's diverse and intergenerational families. AB 196 by Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez will ensure that workers utilizing this state paid family leave legislation can receive 100% wage replacement during the period of their leave. This is particularly important for our low-income women who need every dollar of that income in order to be able to survive with their families. Currently, eligible workers can receive between 60 and 70% of wage replacement for up to 6 weeks, but that is not enough. And Assembly Bill 24 by Assemblymember Autumn Burke enacts the Targeted Child Tax Credit, which would provide increased support for California's families who are living in poverty. No one should be forced to choose between caring for their loved ones and working to make ends meet. With our population aging, people working longer years, and parents working to provide for their families, it is critically important that we recognize and provide the support that our families need to grow and thrive, which will ultimately, of course, benefit our economy, reduce crime, promote long-term health, and keep our businesses flourishing. With that, I'd like to pass the microphone over to Senator Mitchell, who will talk about access to child care, one of our pillars.
Good morning and thank you. You know, Senator Laver, as I heard you talk about the issues with regard to Pay Equity Day, I thought, what would happen if women just stayed home until our pay equity was reached? For me, that means I would be volunteering my services to all of you and the residents of the great state of California until August. And as chair of the Budget Committee, since the budget is due June 15th, that would be a problem, wouldn't it?
That would be a problem.
But if you think about it, if all women stayed home until we hit equal pay, the impact that would have on the 5th largest economy in the world, it would be significant. Child care has been struggling, quite frankly, in the state of California since the Great Recession. Families from a broad spectrum of income and resources have struggled with identifying and securing quality, reliable, and affordable child care. Wait lists, lack of providers, lack of credentialed care have defined the search for child care as parents try to remain in and return to the workforce. The Women's Caucus has prioritized a package of bills for child care that addresses each of these shortcomings: affordability, availability, and stability. Senator Leva's SB 174, the Child Care Stabilization Formula. It reforms the current bifurcated rate system and inadequate reimbursement rates with a single, regionalized state reimbursement system for child care, preschool, and early learning services. People often like to use the term that our child care system is broken. I disagree with that. Somehow, some way, millions of children find their way to child care every day in this great state, allowing family members to go to work. Can it be improved? Without question, and that's the focus of this bill package. The second bill carried by myself, Senate Bill 321, Strong Start for CalWORKs families. It provides families who enter the CalWORKs program with quality, affordable child care to bring stability during their transition into the system. Stage 1 child care will be authorized for 12 months or until the family transfers to what's called Stage 2, establishing continuous affordable child care for families. This measure aligns Stage 1 child care rules to all other subsidized child care programs in California, including Stages 2 and Stage 3. That's a lot of legal regulation ease that basically says providing continuous child care is important for the child's transition into any child care setting, and we don't want to nickel and dime a family to death and create a start and stop situation with their child care experience. The third bill is AB 324 by Assemblymember Agriar Curry, Child Care Professional Development Act. AB 324 creates guidelines for the early care and education professional development and retention system to strengthen, recruit, and retain the ECE workforce. What we know to be true is that making sure that children have access to a caring, well-trained child care provider who is confident in her own position, who is paid a wage that allows her to stay in the early care and education system, is what creates a quality environment. The Women's Caucus has been the proud supporters of our state's ECE system for a number of years now. We've made it a budget priority. And, you know, sisters, we can take credit for making sure that the ECE system has received the investments it has over these more recent years in our effort to reestablish and to infuse necessary dollars into a system that for many years was drained dry. So I'm proud to stand with my colleagues as we talk about the legislative priorities for this year in the area of early care and education. Next, my colleague, Assemblymember Eggman, will talk about our health and safety priorities.
Thank you, Senator Mitchell, and thank you all for being here today. It is my honor to stand here with this dynamic, diverse group of Women's Caucus members as we talk about the priorities for women and children in the state of California for this year. We know, as we talked about today, is Equal Pay Day. Many of us wouldn't be standing here today if it was just based on what we're paid, but we also know it's not just what we're paid, but the costs sometimes associated with being a woman. And one of those things that we're proud to stand with today is Assemblymember Cristina Garcia's AB 31, which would eliminate the tax on tampons. Having your menstrual cycle, having your period is not a luxury and should not be taxed as such. So we are saying that we should abolish the tax. It's something every woman has to pay every month that she is taxed on. That again, it is a driver of what we pay out while we're still not even reaching equal pay what comes in. The next one I'd like to talk about is my bill, AB 577, which would dramatically increase from 60 days to a year for a woman who's on Medi-Cal, gives birth, and has some issues with mental health. You shouldn't go back for your 60-day checkup and then decide you're out of services when you have a significant mental health issue. We all know that having a mother be healthy, be able to take care of her child is the best way to improve outcomes for that family. The last one I'm going to talk about today is SB 464 by Senator Mitchell. One of the things we've talked about today is Senator Mitchell wouldn't be here unless it was August if we're talking about equal pay. But what we do know is that maternal outcomes for African-American children having babies is despite what you're paid, despite what your education level is, your outcomes are worse. More mothers face issues, more babies die. This is unacceptable. So this simply says that everybody needs to have this information. Probably was a surprise to some of you when I talked about that right now. This says every healthcare provider needs to be able to look at their own implicit bias that they're working with when they are working with a diverse population of people. So that's what we're talking about for health and safety. And the next one who's going to come up, one of our dynamic new members, is going to talk about protecting vulnerable communities, and that is Christy Smith.
Good morning. Thank you for being here with us today. The work of the California Legislative Women's Caucus is framed by this maxim. Women take care of each other and everyone around them. And so collectively, we acknowledge something that's best framed by a quote by the great Audre Lorde. I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own. This is why the final pillar of the Legislative Women's Caucus is protecting vulnerable communities. We have 2 priority bills which elevate our most marginalized to ensure that each and every woman is freed from society's shackles. I have authored Assembly Bill 629 with Assembly Member Lorena Gonzalez, which will help victims of human trafficking rebuild their lives. The California Victims Compensation Program provides assistance to victims who have suffered physical injury or the threat of physical injury as a result of violent crime, including covering unforeseen expenses like medical bills, mental health treatment, funeral and burial expenses, and income loss. Under today's law, human trafficking victims are left out of this program. AB 629 will ensure that human trafficking victims will be eligible for compensation for lost or underpaid wages like any other victim of a crime. This will give victims of human trafficking the resources and opportunity to move forward and thrive. Senate Bill 611, authored by Senator Ana Caballero, will establish the Master Plan for Aging. The acronym is HOPE, which is Housing Older Persons Effectively, and it also includes a task force. Our state's over 65 population is poised to double by 2030, increasing to nearly 4 million people, and at the same time becoming more racially and economically diverse. This demographic shift will impact all areas of the service delivery system, especially housing. Older adults are more likely to have multiple chronic health conditions, increased frailty, and limited mobility, requiring housing and services that meet their unique needs. In the absence of housing alternatives, many will be forced into institutional settings, which not only hurts families, but leads to increased costs for the state. SB 611 is an affirmative step towards creating a thoughtful plan to meet the growing need for affordable, accessible housing for senior adults. I want to thank our Chair, Senator Leyva, and Vice Chair, Assemblymember Monique Limon, for their leadership in one of the largest and most diverse women's caucuses in recent history. I'm proud to be among those new members. I'm honored to carry just one bill in a comprehensive, intersectional, and far-reaching package of legislative priorities that speaks to the breadth and the diversity of the women we represent in California. When women lead, we lift each other up. So with that, I will turn the mic back over to our chair, Senator Leyva. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the amazing women who are here with us today. Does anyone have any questions for myself, for the vice chair, or any of the members that are here? All right. I feel like we did do a pretty good job of letting you know what they were and explaining what our priorities are. So we look forward to getting all of these bills to the governor's desk. Thank you all very much for being here.